This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Hello.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. I'm Woody Cain, joined by Joey Meier, as we talk about the weekend that was at Iowa Speedway. No Cup racing this weekend, but we'll also look ahead to Sonoma, where the Cup guys head next. First chance we'll get to see the new package on the road course, and most folks expect it won't make all that much of a difference. However, we do have a new little piece to talk about at Sonoma that's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah, the road course racing is always fun. It offers a normal, if we're going to say a package or configuration. We have the big engines, and everything seems to be a little more normal. Still got the big spoiler in the back, which won't affect us a whole lot. But my Joey looks rested. He's off.
He does. He looks very rested. No Cup race this weekend.
No Cup racing, so just head on over to Outback, grab you a bloomin' onion or a steak.
We just went last week, my wife and I.
I love their salads.
Yeah, they're really good.
I love
Fantastic. Absolutely. Little Joey won't have to be in the kitchen cranking out those bloomin' onions this week.
Had something happen this weekend that never happened in the last 20 years in NASCAR?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there was an official DQ, a disqualification.
Yeah, kind of an unusual situation there.
Yeah, Ross Chastain wins the truck race at Iowa, the Gander Outdoors Truck Series race, but then in post-race inspection, the truck was a little too low, so they said, nope, you're not the winner. Brett Moffitt becomes the winner, and he comes into the media center saying he had already started to head to the plane, had a Bud Light in his hand, and he's sitting out there in the media center just having a few sips. Attaboy.
It's pretty anticlimactic to win the race that way. Never led a lap.
Yeah.
And really, I'm not saying didn't compete at the higher level like Ross Chastain did, but, a win's a win. It's like a rainout.
However you can get them.
Exactly right. A year from now when they're looking at that trophy in the shop, over at GMS Racing, it'll say winner, Iowa. Yeah. It's a nice little corn.
It won't have an asterisk on it.
No, it's they give it like a little fuel pump. It's kind of cool. It has corn in it. We've been fortunate to do very well there with the trucks and the Xfinity cars at Brad's old truck team and over at Team Penske. And we've got about 4 or 5 of those little Iowa.
Got a budding cornfield going on there, don't you?
And it has corn in it. So those guys will look at that trophy and relish that day of how they performed. Ross Chastain, who a week ago or 2 races ago declared he took himself out of the Xfinity points, put himself into the truck race after he won Kansas.
Yeah, so you don't get to keep that. You start from scratch, basically.
Yep. So he figured, hey, man, my performance in the truck series is going to be good enough that I can get A in the top 20 in points and B win a race to make the playoffs for those guys because they don't have many races left.
Yeah.
And sure enough, second race in, he's going to come win that race. And then the old white trailer, red trailer, whatever you want to call it, goes through the tent, didn't pass. And
here we are. Nice Motorsports, by the way, says they are appealing. Yeah. That will be an expedited appeal. We'll wait to see how that comes out and what turns out to be the situation there. The other thing we're going to talk about, though, is what happened on track between Johnny Sauter and Austin Hill. Some bad blood between those two, and we expect perhaps some further word from NASCAR this week on that.
You want to take bets on what happens with the
No,
appeal?
Hold that thought, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. It's a really big program today. We're going to talk about what happened at Iowa, what's going to happen at Sonoma Raceway. It's all ahead on this edition of MRN Out Loud.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away 1 set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
Check out MRN.com for a new podcast series called The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. 25 years and still trucking. We'll take you back to some great races.
Benson to the bottom of the racetrack. This is the race for the lead.
Michigan.
And some wild moments.
One truck is in the air, Matt Crafton upside down.
And we'll let you hear the stories behind them.
He was too bullheaded to let me pass him, and I was too bullheaded to let him have it.
Download the show for free on iTunes and at MRN.com.
Outback Steakhouse discussing what happened at Iowa, what's going to happen at Sonoma Raceway. We think we got a good idea of what we might see when we get there. But don't forget, folks, make sure you tune in next week across the MRN platforms, because as we head to Chicagoland Speedway, it's all a part of Procore Week here on the network. Some special programming, some special things you'll want to make sure you're aware of leading into the race at Chicagoland Speedway the following week. All right. Let's get into what happened. We haven't mentioned the Xfinity Series yet. Christopher Bell dominates that race, sweeps the stages, wins again. He is destined, I think, to make the championship round at Homestead later this year with the performance we've seen.
Good battle, though, with him and Cole Custer. Cole Custer showed some speed and really felt like the lack of practice inhibited their ability to raise their level of performance to compete with Christopher Bell.
They had rain a good bit before, and actually the truck race got rained out Saturday and pushed into Sunday.
The corn people are happy.
Yeah, it's growing. Yeah, you can hear it growing out there.
It's like popcorn.
Yeah,
exactly.
Coming up.
But he was looking for a little more practice time to be able to just needed to make some fine-tune adjustments and get that car to be able to compete. But clearly the class of the field was Christopher Bell. Guys like Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric and Hunter Nemechek, they all had just smaller issues, but there was a good race back for 5th, 6th, 7th, and back to 10th. But really, Christopher Bell led most of the day afternoon and was very little doubt that he was going to win that race.
If you look at the standings right now, and this is strictly on points, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, the top three. Those guys have at least 3 wins apiece. Bell has 4 now. Michael Annett has another. You've mentioned this briefly before, but I wanted to get your take on it sort of updated. We all think, I believe, that Reddick, Bell, and Custer are the favorites, at least 3 of the favorites to make it to the championship round in Homestead. Who's that 4th guy?
2 years ago, Elliott Sadler was coming up and had a really good year, and I really felt the strength of Junior Motorsports was going to be there. You can't count Justin Allgaier out.
I agree.
Their performance is good. It's their execution that's been poor. So once they tidy up the loose ends, they're right there performance-wise. And I think Justin Allgaier is going to be added to that group. Austin Cindric, who hasn't won yet, is always sitting right there in the top 5. They're looking just to come over that hill a little bit. And once they do, we get to the second part of the season where we start seeing these tracks a second time. This is his first full-time year in one car.
Yeah.
Last year he did run the full season, but he ran it in 3 different cars with 3 different crew chiefs and things of that nature. So the second half of the season should be the strength of the 22 car. Hunter Nemechek, they're not flash in the pan, if you will, but he needs to put a full year together to get that experience. But
10 top 10s for John Hunter so far this season.
Again, very consistent.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you take Justin Allgaier out of that picture. You have a group of the second group of people, right, looking to make their name, and I think Justin Allgaier is at the top of that group.
A couple of other guys you might want to throw into the mix. Chase Briscoe seems to be coming on. He's got 11 top 10s so far. Noah Gragson, another guy, as you mentioned, has been fast but can't seem to get around some mistakes or issues. They've had the speed. If they can put it together, they could be a factor as well in the playoffs.
You look in the top 9, 3 of them are Junior Motorsports cars. Michael Annett's already in the playoffs with his run at Daytona. So it's really a matter of, again, just cleaning up the act and the execution of their races, because speed isn't a problem.
No racing for the Xfinity Series this coming weekend. They'll get back in action the following week at Chicagoland Speedway on that Saturday. That's a 3 o'clock Eastern start, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday as we go to Chicagoland Speedway, where a triple header is on tap. All right, let's get into the Truck Series, because we mentioned that they got rained out on Saturday, pushed into Sunday, and it looked like they were chomping at the bit to get after it, because we saw a lot of action between, we mentioned the Ross Chastain thing, that he won the race, got DQ'd. Brett Moffitt gets the win. Nice Motorsports, Chastain's team, says they will appeal. But then we have the whole situation between Austin Hill and Johnny Sauter. And apparently it's carryover from what happened between those two at Texas. They get together. Johnny Sauter then takes it a step further. What do you think NASCAR does at this point?
Well, let's back up. Initially, you started your conversation with Ross Chastain won. He took the lead 3 wide with Matt Crafton was in the middle of that. It was an amazing move to take the lead, and that's what Iowa comes to produce, that kind of racing. It was fantastic racing.
Is it a short track or is it an intermediate track in your mind?
Who cares?
But the way it drives, what do you categorize it as?
I think anytime you're heavy on the brakes, it's a short track.
Okay.
I consider an intermediate track where we don't have brake ducts and we're running wide open most of the places.
And you just roll out of the throttle a little.
Yeah. And that's, so even though it's 7/8 of a mile, which is right under that mile limit that I think maybe somebody made a mention of whether it was a short track or not, it races more like a short track, 3 and 4 wide, good restarts. And we saw that with Ross Chastain. But then we had Austin Hill on the show a couple of weeks ago. Nice kid. Everything's going well. But him and Johnny just don't see eye to eye,
Yeah.
And it really boils down to, and man, I've said 100 times, and if you can quote me on this, racing is selfish, man.
It is.
It's a selfish sport. You want something that you have that I don't have, and if I have it, I'm not giving it to you, and you're trying to take it from me. It's really a matter of I'm getting something you're not.
It's like 2 dogs playing tug-of-war over that bone.
It's it. And, and sometimes you're going to race and bump heads, and NASCAR has a decision to make. Now, do I want to see Johnny Sauter suspended? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But they're in this box because they've already said, we don't mind if you get out of your car and you walk down to somebody else's car and you punch the guy. We've seen that. Kyle Busch, Joey Logano.
Clint Boyer just did it this year. Yeah.
So we've seen plenty of times where the NASCAR administration has said, use your fists. We've also seen plenty of times where cars have used their car to turn somebody around and they lose their minds because they consider it being dangerous. Although the guy's wearing a helmet with a Hans strapped in a race car.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what decision comes down the pipeline on whether they think Johnny Sauter was being dangerous. It was a slow-speed wreck. It wasn't a high-speed wreck, as the example came from Kyle Busch and Ron Hornaday years ago.
I was at that race, by the way, and that was crazy.
Yeah, I was spotting it. It was very interesting. But that affected Hornaday's chance for the championship. And
Kyle was not running for points in the truck series.
Right, there was a lot different scenario, other than the fact there was 2 trucks at wreck. That was the only thing that was. So it'll be interesting to see whether, and then the argument comes if Johnny misses the race. If they suspend him, does he get removed from the championship hunt because he didn't start
run all
every
the race? That's huge.
So that's
the nuclear option.
Right,
yeah.
And that's so it'll be interesting to see what comes from Daytona. They're talking about it right now.
Yeah, they've got some heavy debating to do.
Exactly right. And Johnny, again, that's just Johnny, man. You take it with a grain of salt. We've had him on the show numerous times. When things are good, they're great, but when they're bad, they're bad. Yeah. And honestly, that's what we saw was just tight racing. Johnny had enough, and he wanted to make sure Austin Hill knew he had enough. And
here's the line. Right here's the line.
Yep. And there's zero doubt in Austin's mind now how Johnny feels.
Yeah, absolutely. No ambiguity at this point. But
no.
It's interesting, as you mentioned, because there have been different rulings and different situations and circumstances in the past. It'll be interesting to see what circumstances NASCAR considers most important in this particular incident.
Right, because what they could say, the easiest penalty is we parked him for the race. We feel like he served his penalty. That's the easiest one. The other end of the book spectrum is you're suspended for a race.
Right.
And so somewhere in the middle,
but that opens up a whole nother can of worms, as you mentioned. Yeah,
exactly
you got to figure out a whole nother scenario from that point.
So somewhere in the middle, I think you're going to see a points penalty. Maybe golly, I hope I don't get suspended.
Yeah,
that's just kind of an extreme.
That would be
thing.
Would be kind of wild, and it will definitely make the Twitters blow up. We got to take another break here on MRN Out Loud. When we come back, we'll climb up on the soapbox and talk a little bit about that ruling that cost Ross Chastain, at least for now, the victory in the Truck Series race at Iowa.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Pocono Raceway is summertime. It's where kids are free and everyone's welcome to camp out for the weekend. It's where fans can shake hands with the most famous drivers on earth. It's where tailgating is serious business. It's where first-timers hang out with old-timers, and the racing is always a little tricky. Bring your friends, bring your family, just bring it, Pocono style. The Gander RV 400, July 26th to 28th. Kids under 12, free all weekend.
Leave the stand.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, reviewing what happened at Iowa, looking ahead to what may happen at Sonoma, the first road course event of the season coming up this weekend. And Joey, one of the things that we were discussing is, for the first time in recent memory, someone has been disqualified from a race. The win was taken away.
Plenty of opportunities in the 3 Series over the last 20 years that we had cars blatantly fail a rules regulation. And unfortunately, the winner got to keep the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't keep the money, he didn't keep the points, but he is still declared the winner.
Right.
That changed this weekend.
And what do we think now? Because when you look at it from this standpoint, I kind of like the notion of having some sort of certainty before the day is over, as opposed to Wednesday or something.
Yeah, one of the big things we did in 2019 is NASCAR quit the Wednesday fiasco of doing post-race technical inspection.
When they haul them all back to
haul
Concord.
them back,
yeah.
and they make a fiasco of it. Race team guys are all there, and then we're going to nitpick this car to death and try to find something wrong. Now we do all that post-race. It takes about an hour to hour and a half. And at the end of that day, when the gates close, you walk away from the speedway knowing who won.
Sounds like the soapbox. So the reason, let's clarify, that Ross Chastain had the win taken away was the height rule. The truck was too low in the front.
Yeah, and that's kind of a frustration for my part. Years ago, at least 2 or 3 years ago, they got rid of the ride height rule in the Cup Series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things, now you're sitting in the stands and you're following the Cup cars, you're following the trucks, you're following Xfinity. We got all these different rules. We need to mesh them together better.
Mm-hmm.
The trucks, Xfinity, and the trucks and Xfinity cars or trucks and the Cup cars are very similar, and they have a splitter.
Mm-hmm.
When the car travels, the teams try to get the car to sit the lowest they possibly can, make the smallest opening. The body of the truck limits that travel.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting on the ground anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Why have a height rule? You're limiting, all you're doing is rolling through tech with the car sitting up on its springs. The shocks aren't doing anything a whole lot, and you're going to run through and say, okay, this is my height rule. All right, my truck meets the height rule. The minute it rolls on the track and goes 5 miles an hour, the truck settles down.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer legal,
Yeah.
but it passed going 0 miles an hour. So now these cars go around in circles. They beat and bang. They jostle around. Now these cars sit still again. They're supposed to maintain the same height rule. They realized years ago in the Cup car it was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the technology required to get these cars low, it is a cost savings for the teams and the Xfinity and the truck. I understand.
As opposed to if there was just no rule at all.
No rule at all, because now we increase our costs with springs that ride differently in these cars, and they the coils sit differently on a car with no height rule.
And then theoretically come back up afterwards.
Yep. So I just wish we would be common around.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of areas where they are doing that,
Yep.
but this is one where they're not yet.
And this is one of those things that you could argue that the ride height rule didn't affect the race.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't it be more of an advantage to have his front end lower than everybody else's?
Because on the track, everybody's nose is already on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They're already on the ground. They're as low as they possibly can get. Now, the technology on the ride of the truck, while it's that low, is a little differently. If you can keep the shocks and the springs, keeping it that lower versus it popping up down the straightaway. So no truck on the track was lower, or his wasn't lower than anybody else's, but it may not have been as high as other people's during the race. So there's a good argument on, did it give him a big advantage? That's where the technology comes and says, no, probably didn't give him a big advantage.
But some.
But possibly some, possibly. Now, we're talking about a lower funded. Nice Motorsports isn't a big KBM or GMS or Thor Sport, which I would consider the big three in the truck series.
Mm-hmm.
Nice is a newer team. They do have 2 trucks. Ross Chastain won a race already over there at Kansas. So I think he still wins a race. I don't think he's too concerned. They're going to have an opportunity to run, a handful more races before the playoffs, but I think he gets a victory.
The key is he's got to get in the top 20 in points as well, and people think, oh my gosh, he's starting at 0. He can't do that. Well, some of the guys that he's chasing for that 20th spot aren't running full schedule, so he should theoretically be able to do that by running all the races. That's the thing there. And interestingly enough, Ross Chastain was our guest analyst for the Xfinity race, which was pre-planned before any of this happened. We didn't just go and grab him and say, hey, you want to come up? This was already planned. And one of the points that he made was that these cars and trucks are made, those parts around the splitter, the side skirts, all that stuff, so that they are made to kind of wear down. So you get a medium to know it's not like it's a piece that's going to pick you up and throw you into the wall if it scrapes. They're kind of made to scrub off a little bit. So everybody knows that that's what's happening. The key is, did that truck come back up post-race? And Brad Moran, the series director, said we let them push it around the garage a couple times and do their thing, and it just didn't come back up to height, so they had to DQ him.
Yeah, currently right now he's 35th in points.
35th. Yeah, but he's chasing some guys who aren't running the full schedule. And theoretically, with 8 to go, I think, before we get to the playoffs now, he should be able to make that happen.
Yeah, top 20 in points won't be a problem.
Yeah, he should be able to do that if something extra crazy doesn't happen. However, if this ruling is upheld, he's only going to get, 5 points for running the entire race at Iowa.
That's it. And then the 5 points is last place.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's segue a little bit now to Sonoma, where the Cup cars go. First road course race of the season, and a little bit of a different version of Sonoma than we've seen in years past. You've talked a lot in the past about the difference between the high speeds at Watkins Glen and the slower speeds, more precision at Sonoma.
Every racetrack we go to, a normal oval racetrack, has 4 corners. And there's always an argument when we go to Pocono of how many corners it actually has.
What turn 4?
We say it has 3 turns. Some of the crazier arguments could be it has 6. It has an entry into 1, an exit of 2. But for the most part, every track we go to is 4, and they're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't ever try that at Sonoma.
No. Everybody has a different system.
And not only that, but we take a corner, and it's clearly a corner, and we add a letter to it. It's 3A.
Yeah. Like, where did that come from?
Why is it 3A?
So, like, if you're telling your driver 3 versus 3A, is he processing all that, or do you have your own language?
So, with that being said, we used to race Sonoma. We'd go down the backstretch, go up the hill, 3A. We'd go to 4. What came after 4?
Should be 5.
It was 7.
Wait, where did the others go?
We went from 4 to 7 because part of the racetrack we cut out.
Do you tell your guy you got through 5 and 6 really good?
Now we fixed it. We resolved the issue. We gave them the carousel back, or the inner loop, if you want to call it. We now race a different portion. So now we leave turn 4. We should go 5, 6, and 7. We don't.
What do we do?
5, 6, 6A, and then 7.
And then 7.
And then 7.
Oh,
and
my
when you leave 7, that's where it gets really good, because then you have 8, 8A.
8A is everybody's favorite.
And then 9.
Yeah, and then here we go.
And then we get to count to 10 to 11. So we've added a portion of this racetrack that the Cup guys used to race on years ago. They took it away, and now we're adding it. So we're going to go from 4. We're going to turn back inside the track to the
infield,
to the drag strip, and then come back up. So we've taken a portion from 4 and 7, which used to be a straight line, and we added a big U to it, is what we've done. So we're looking forward to it. Nobody has been able to test out there in a Cup car. Some of the drivers are going to run like I think Kevin Harvick's running a K&N race out there.
They always have the K&N series out there as well.
So a couple of drivers are going to run the K&N side to get used to the different elevation changes, huge elevation. That's what Sonoma really offers. Watkins Glen has a little bit of an elevation change, but Sonoma's a lot of elevation changes from the front to the back and both sides of the track.
All right, we got to take one more break here on MRN Out Loud. We'll talk a little more Sonoma and give you the weekend schedule when we come back.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders, because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
For more than 80 years, Detroit Diesel has been a legendary driving force, powering many of the best-known trucks on the road. Through our state-of-the-art Detroit technologies in components and safety systems, we've earned our customers' trust as a reliable business partner. dedicated to improving their bottom line. It's no wonder they continue to depend on Detroit to keep them safe and efficient on the road. When you demand it all, demand Detroit.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Woody Cain alongside Joey Meier, reviewing what happened at Iowa, what may happen at Sonoma this coming week. But don't forget, you can get some free stuff. Hercules Tire is giving away a free set of tires every month, and you can register by going to HerculesTire.com/MRN. Who doesn't like free stuff?
Well, if you have a car or a truck or some kind of vehicle that has 4 tires, you get free tires.
How can you beat that?
No,
it's almost as good as a free Bloomin' Onion.
Imagine getting a free Bloomin' Onion if Kevin Harvick finishes good next week
Top 10
at Sonoma.
And he usually does.
And a free set of tires in 1 week.
That's a big week. That's a really big week.
Yep. We can do it right here.
Let's back up a little bit on the Sonoma discussion about adding the carousel back in. Racing-wise, strategy-wise, how much of a difference will that make, if any?
It won't,
it may change the fuel calculation.
Yeah, that's about it. So the crew chiefs are already going to work this race backwards. And why do we talk about that? Well, you have to get to the end of the race to win.
Mm-hmm.
You work backwards from the end of the race to where you start needing fuel. And you'll see guys on that strategy.
They don't stop by circumstances. They stop when the math dictates.
That's it. It's a track position style race. We've seen this in the past at most of your road courses. We work our backwards. We go to the end of the race. If I can run it, make it simple. If it's a 100-lap race and I can run 20 laps on a tank of gas, then I'll pit at lap 81 to make sure I can make the end of the race. And that's working backwards. Normally, at most of your oval tracks, you start the race at lap 0. If I can go 20 laps, I'm going to pit at lap 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the race, you just figure out, okay, I got to get a splash of gas to make the end of the race. Road courses are notorious for working them backwards, starting at the end of the race and seeing how many stops you have to do and when you have to do that, because you don't want to get stuck on pit road, a lot of activity going on the track, and somebody rolls off. Your perfect scenario would be get on pit road, get your gas, get on the track, and then boom.
And then something happens.
And then the caution comes out. You get to stay out, and everybody else has to pit.
Strategy-wise, you've mentioned in the past that there aren't many good passing opportunities at Sonoma. Will the carousel provide any more of those or not as much?
The initial conversation that I've had with our guys and guys around us is that it took away a passing zone. So look for the area in the carousel to get roughed up a little bit, because you're going to have to try to get inside of somebody in the carousel to make the run back up the hill into turn 7. Once you get leaf 7, it's really, really tight all the way down to 11, which is your next passing zone.
Mm-hmm.
We normally had a big passing zone between 4 and 7 because there was no 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So we went from 4 to 7. It was an outbreaking zone, and now they've taken that area away to where you're going to be turning left and right down that big U area. So it'll be interesting to see who can make the runs and get the momentum to get to 7, if that's considered still a good passing zone.
What, in your mind, is the best passing zone now at Sonoma?
Down into 11. It'll be you're going to get a good run down the S's the best you can. Exit 10, which is a shallow right-hander, and then try to outbreak back into 11.
And the hard, long curve.
Big hairpin back
where we've
up.
seen a lot of action over the past several years.
A lot of good restarts, a lot of activity. Stewart ended up in the tires there a couple years ago. That was awesome. So then we come back 11, go to 12 right before the start-finish line to start the whole lap again. So I still think 11 will be the best passing zone, but we're hoping the carousel offers an opportunity to go side by side.
Trucks head this weekend to St. Louis. Xfinity teams are off, but St. Louis, it's now Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, and there's the halfway flags by the time you say all that. But it's a fun track. It's a really cool track to watch a race. What can we expect from the trucks there?
It's interesting because now that everybody's gone to the Ilmor engine and the transmission ratios have been adjusted, there will be no more shifting. St. Louis was one of those places that we always shifted at. It's like a big Darlington flat. It's a egg-shaped track with 2 different corners. You can never get both corners great, but one of the corners down in 1 and 2 used to be tight enough that you'd shift coming out of there. With the Ilmor engine, no more shifting, so teams are going to be a little more conservative, with their transmissions and stuff of that nature. They don't have to worry about busting them up. And again, that provides a great racetrack. The trucks were not there for a little while. Now they're back. It's a great racetrack. The city really loves it, and I think they have a doubleheader.
Yeah, and years ago, we were there for a doubleheader, sort of like they had at Iowa this past weekend. Somebody hit a power pole that had a transformer on it, and we had a brownout situation. It must have been 10,000 degrees that weekend. Came back and did a doubleheader the next day, just like they did at Iowa. I through those clothes away. They were ruined because it was so ridiculously hot out there. Let's hope it's not that hot this weekend.
Yeah, it provides good activity, good action on track for St. Louis. The trucks look forward to going back there. And again, the Ilmore engine is going to provide a little bit different package to be able to race without shifting.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. We got a big week coming up for you here on the Motor Racing Network. Don't forget, every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, NASCAR Live with your host, Mike Bagley, getting you set for all the action this weekend. Our friends at the Performance Racing Network will have the action from Sonoma Raceway. However, Motor Racing Network will have coverage of the iHeartRadio 200 from Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, 9 o'clock, 9:30 Eastern Time, Saturday night, right here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Woody. That's Joey. See you next week right back here.